come on.
I think that the strategy and the tactics of trying to use as much of your squad over the 2 games and trying to balance up, that they weren't making a wholesale. It wasn't a straight 13 in, 13 out kind of thing. It was substitute, it was swaps at the right point. I think that was actually quite clever coaching, and I think that's what's done. I think, and I'm quite impressed with what I've seen of Andy Last. I think he's quite a thoughtful coach, someone who's sort of clearly studied and done his apprenticeship. So I think he's done quite well in those terms. So I'm quite impressed by him in those terms. So I think this was a right move. And like you say, I don't think Darryl Powell had many other options, but...
I mean, he did make some changes. You can't say he didn't make any changes. Chase Blair came in for Alex Foster. Josiah Feckie, like we say, came in. James Clare came back. He didn't play in the week before. Tyler Heppy came onto the bench in place of Junior Moores. So it wasn't like there was no changes from Castleford. Let's make that sort of clear. But they did have less options to make changes, I think, through the way it worked.
Yeah, I think so. But what I did think, as well, it just looked. Hull FC did look the more positive. They looked like they knew they were in a cup game and they were set up to try and win that cup game. And that was that. I think, if anything, and I think Last probably alluded to this as much as in his interview after Thursday night, that the Thursday was almost the bonus, the league was the bonus, and the cup was what they were focusing on. And that they did well, did very well, unfortunately, to win both. I think, certainly initially Grant Millington for Cass, when he got into it, was absolutely everywhere. He was popping up, and really, the first probably 20 minutes or so, he was just battering it round. He was, putting his stamp on the game. So he was a loss where he came out of the game. One thing I did want to focus on: James Clare's facial hair. What was going on there? He looked very, very teenage, trying but not being very successful.
I didn't notice it, to be completely honest. There was
one point in the first half where the camera just zoomed in, and I was just thinking, what are you doing?
When the opposition fullback seems to have dyed his hair lighter and dyed his moustache darker to just make it look even more ludicrous, I couldn't even associate with what James Clare was doing, if I'm honest with you on that point. But you're right, Hull FC showed a lot more energy and vigour and stuff even from the start. So, Jamie Shaw was everywhere, I thought, and then he picked up a head knock just after Grant Millington did, actually. He went off and then stayed off after being properly assessed at half time. They both didn't come back in the second half. So, but he was very good, and that was a major reshuffle required, just like the Josiah Feckie one was a major reshuffle required from Castleford. So I don't think any one side necessarily has it over the other on that injury point in the game, but definitely Hull FC were more exuberant and energetic, and kind of, when they got the ball, it's almost like they were able to move a lot more. It's hard to sort of articulate it right, but each player made like more steps per carry, it felt like. They'd be sideways, forward, up and down, kind of ducking under stuff. They were more active, even if they didn't make necessarily more yards per carry and stuff. They were way more active in that first half. And obviously Tumavave was exceptional, wasn't he, in the involvements he had in the first half, with the try that he scored, and then he was involved in setting up the Albert Kelly try, and then he got the interception try right at the end of the first half, which was an absolute killer for a Castleford side who were definitely still in it at 12-6.
Yeah, I think that the interception from Tumavave was just great work to poach on that, and I think he was in the right position to be able to do that. I think that took a lot more work. I don't think it was. I think interceptions like that are actually quite hard they still do require a lot of skill and a lot of scoring to get done. So I think that was good. And again,
it was high risk as well, I thought. I know some of them look like when you jump out the line to go and get it, but he was stood in no man's land. The only good outcome there was if Peter Matautia just handed him the ball, which is what happened. He really did. You got to give him credit for reading it rather than saying he got himself lost and got lucky. I think he really did read that this is almost that was Matautia's only play that he was going to make. He knew what Matautia was going to do before Matautia did it. Really.
Yeah, I definitely think the overall skill there was top draw, and I think again one of my main things around this game is Jake Connor just again a mature performance, and it's not maturity is not something you'd associate as in your top 5 adjectives for Jake Connor. But again, he just
unless you were saying the lack of.
Exactly, yeah, him. Yeah. But again, so that was impressive. And I think from a potential in looking possibly for England, that's a big bonus if he is potentially putting himself in a conversation. Yeah,
exactly. And the Carlos tried just before half time, and then the Ratu Nulongo tried from the 20-metre tap, which credit has to be given as well to Brett Afaremo. He just got his foot in goal as he caught the ball to give the 7 tackle set, but really did hustle as well to get to do the tap and just give it to Ratu to run. I mean, it's the last run he did really, because he buggered himself up by putting that much effort into one carry, but it was a real game-breaking moment as well, weren't it? That the try just before and just after half-time, crucial. Even though Ollie Holmes hit back straight away to that try, it seemed like the 3-score margin was too big to overcome by that stage, maybe?
Yeah, it felt almost like it was a runaway train at that point, and they just, as much as they pumped up and down on that pumpy up and down thing, they weren't going to catch the train.
And then the fatigue aspect came into it heavily for Castleford.
Yeah, you could see that. You could almost feel it. You could feel the extra weight in the legs that they were really feeling at that point.
I was shocked, like massively shocked, that Paul McShane was still trying to dictate as much play from dummy half as he was in this game in that later stages where he was clearly knackered. Like, there's absolutely no reason when you've got Milner and O'Neill on the field as well, who are also dummy halves really, or certainly capable hookers, for him to have done every tackle. There was periods where I did think that those other two could have jumped in and helped him out a bit more, especially in exit sets. There was exit sets where they were just going to try and establish field position for next time, and a weary McShane picking the ball up was going to put you all more on the back foot than players who'd been interchanged throughout the game, like O'Neill and Milner, jumping in and doing just a little bit to ease things for him in those stages. I really do think that that's something that Cass have to be thinking about. Like, McShane's hugely important to them, but isn't it more important that you get him around the right moments at the right time rather than...
Exactly. Yeah, they need him to be working on being as fresh as he can at the right point. So if he has to take a set where he ends up on the wing, then he takes a set where he's on the wing, because if he's there at the crucial moment, that's what they need, and he's able to slot in anywhere. So, but they need to work around him more.
They definitely did in this game with the way that he was so tired. So visibly and clearly the most fatigued player on the pitch by a way, I thought.
And he always does look a bit more tired than everybody else anyway, but you could really feel it this time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like John Bateman always looks like he's exhausted, but then manages to do something spectacular. That's what Paul McShane has been able to do quite a lot of times, but it just... You felt like every time he got into dummy half or every tackle he was forced to make, it just looked further and further away. Like the score margin might have only been, say, 12 points In fact, it got down to as close as 8 points when Matautia went over, didn't it? The score margin was only 8 points, but it felt like for that last 20 minutes, every time McShane made a tackle, that the points margin just grew. Because it just seemed further and further away that they were going to be able to make 2 scores up, with him tiring himself out in defence and in exit sets unnecessarily.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Right, okay, let's move on to the NRL. Do you want to give people the scores and the stats, and I'll call out any fan views we had along the way?
Yep, so it's round 18 in the NRL, and it finished West Tigers 24, South Sydney Rabbitohs 26, and Mr. Burgess ran for 178 metres there.
Mark Butler got in touch. He said, a remarkable West game again, only this time their comeback attempt came up short. Not quite as much of a late show. They did look cooked at 20-0 down, but reduced the gap to 8 by the break. The second half saw plenty of carnage, but not as many points. The ultimately crucial Souths try came when the game was 12v11. A high-risk Marshall play, unnecessarily so, at the end. That didn't work, saw off the comeback.
Yeah, and it finished the Bulldogs 20, the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles 32, Panthers 20, Eels 2 in the what was billed as the headline game, but sort of, well, Penrith really ran away with that one. Then it finished Dragons 8, Raiders 37. Lots of involvement in this one, as you'd expect from the Green Machine. Bateman with a try and 105 metres. Sutton going well again for 125 metres, and George Williams 1 try assist. And Elliot Whitehead also getting on the score sheet with a try assist as well, on the stat sheet, sorry. And it also finished the Gold Coast Titans 18, Brisbane Broncos 6, Farnworth Herbie himself played and rode again on this one. Roosters 42, Knights 12. We had a view on this one.
Yeah, Carson said SBW with a much improved performance, and Kiri, Teddy and the outside backs killed the Knights. Boyd Cordner's concussion is worrying though. I nearly watched some of this game, but by the time I turned it on 10 minutes in, it was already out of sight. So I didn't. So I did some decorating work instead.
It was the Melbourne Storm 36, the Cowboys 20, and the Sharks 22, Warriors 14.
In terms of the standings, with the top 8 final sides now locked in, the NRL ladder looks like this. Panthers stay top on 33 points, 1 win or 1 Storm loss away from the minor premiership. Storm are second on 30 points and have secured a top 4 finish. Eels and Roosters have 26 points, completing the current top 4. Raiders have 24 points, Rabbitohs have 22 points, Knights have 21, and Sharks complete the playoff spots on 20 points with just 2 rounds left. West Tigers lead the also-rans, of course they do, on 14 points alongside the Sea Eagles, Warriors and Titans. Dragons have 12, Cowboys have 8, Broncos have 6, and Bulldogs sit bottom on 4 points. That's it for other results. We're now going to make our predictions for 1 Super League game and 4 Challenge Cup games.
Dun, dun, dun.
Right, we're into our predictions section then. There is a Super League game this week. People might not be aware of it because for some reason it's not on Sky and it's kicking off Thursday 3 p.m. Wakefield versus Huddersfield, being played at the John Smiths, although Wakefield are the home side. All very confusing stuff in these modern times. Season ticket holders for both sides will be able to watch the game on the R-League app. I would sort of say, if you're going to show it on the R-League app, why not put it at 5 o'clock and make it available to everyone?
Yeah.
You know, it's still not much difference. Everyone can still be finished and watch the Roses 2020 game at 7. That's, it's 6:30, but not a problem there. But anyway, yeah, I'm struggling with this one, Tim. We've got the squads. So for Wakefield, Eddie Batty's into the squad. Kyle Wood, James Batchelor, Adam Tangata, and Jack Croft return, but Innes Senior is ineligible to play against his parent club. Huddersfield obviously without Adam O'Brien after his worrying injury last week, so young Reece Butterworth comes in. That's really their only change to their squad from last week. Simon Wolford's circumstances have been cleared up now, so maybe that distractions. off the table for them. I almost think which team's going to lose rather than which team's going to win.